lived in Georgia for 3 years when I was younger. In 2016, my parents divorced and my mom moved me and my brothers back to Pennsylvania to be closer to family. My dad stayed in Georgia, and he still currently lives there. We lived with my mom most of the time, but we went to see my dad in Georgia every summer and every other holiday. In the summer of 2017, we were in Georgia with our dad. This was around the time when 3 a.m. challenges and Ouija boards were really popular, so me and my brothers wanted to try the Ouija board for the very first time. Since we didn't have any money to buy a real Ouija board, we decided to make one with a piece of plywood and a Sharpie. We went into my dad's living room and closed all of the curtains. We began playing the Ouija board and used a clear plastic cup as a planchette. And to my surprise, the planchette actually moved. At the time, I didn't believe it was real, but after that experience, I did. We contacted someone who called themselves DF. He told us how he and his family died in a house fire on my dad's property. We kept playing, and DF told us some other stuff that isn't worth mentioning. We played for a little while longer, and eventually we stopped. We went on with the rest of our day, and nothing else really happened, until later that night. At my dad's house, we had 3 beds that were all in the same room. Of course, from my bed, I had a straight view out the door and into the hallway. Every night, we would put on the show Malcolm in the Middle and play it on the TV until the TV turns off. I fell asleep watching TV, but woke up once it turned off. I rolled over and tried to fall back to sleep, but I heard a noise come from the hallway. It sounded like the floor creaked. I looked over to see both of my brothers fast asleep, and all of my attention immediately went back to the door when I saw and heard someone sprint past. I was frozen and couldn't move. And then, the figure ran back past the doorway, going the other way down the hallway. That was enough for me to hide under my covers, like that was going to do anything. The figure appeared to be about 5'4" and was all one color, a tannish color, almost like a naked human. I then made a dumb move and peeked out from under my blanket to see a face peeking out from around the doorway. I threw the blanket back over my head and laid in a ball, scared for my life. I didn't know what to do, and I was too scared to wake up my brothers, so I stayed under my blanket, where I eventually fell asleep. I woke up the next morning and went on with my life. For some reason, I never told anyone. I never saw that figure again. I've seen shadows since then, but never the actual figure. I vowed to never touch a Ouija board again. I've broken that vow a few times, but every time I touch a Ouija board, I get a really bad feeling in my gut, telling me to stop and run away. A lot of scary things happened at my childhood house. When I was 13, a lot of creepy stuff was happening. It seemed like every night something new would happen, and it would terrify me and my brothers. I don't know if it was paranormal, but I believe it was. Me and my brothers were scared. We decided we all wanted to sleep in the same room. My brothers already shared a room, so I decided to sleep on their floor. One night, we all got ready for bed and headed to my brother's room to go to sleep. We watched YouTube for about an hour and then turned off the TV. We talked for a little while, and then we turned out the lights and went to sleep. I don't know what time it was or how long I was asleep, but I randomly woke up. There was a lamp next to me, and I turned it on. I didn't see anything, but the light being on woke up my brothers. I asked them if they heard the noise. They said no, but that they heard noises earlier. They said that they were tired and to turn the light back off. I said okay and reached for the lamp switch. All of a sudden, I watched the switch move on its own, right in front of my face, and the light turned off. My brother saw it too. Me and my brother screamed, causing my other brother to start screaming too. We all got up and sprinted out of the room, still screaming. We ran to my mom's room and told her what happened. That night, we moved into my room, and we all slept there for the next few weeks. We still experienced stuff in my room, but it wasn't as dramatic as the light switch turning off on its own. Eventually, things stopped happening, and my brothers moved back into their room. Back in November of 2024, me, my brother, and my brother's girlfriend went to this old cemetery in the woods. It was about 30 minutes from our college campus. We left around 10 o'clock. On the way, I did a little research, and I found out that nobody had been buried in that cemetery in over 100 years. About 2 miles away from the cemetery, the paved road turned into a dirt road. It had just snowed a few days before, so the dirt road was still covered in snow. We decided to go anyway. We drove very slowly down the road, hoping we wouldn't crash. About 1.5 miles down, the road split. We made a guess and went right. We arrived at the cemetery a few minutes later. We got out of the car and walked for about a minute. Once we got to the cemetery, we looked at a few graves. After a few minutes, we decided to make things scarier and play the Ouija board. Nothing really happened, and the planchette didn't move. We decided we were ready to leave since it was cold, and we headed back to the car. We got in the car and left. After about 1 mile, we noticed there were 2 cars blocking the road. We instantly thought of the worst case scenario. We thought we were going to be robbed, kidnapped, or even worse. We realized that we were trapped in a cemetery with at least 2 psychos, possibly more. But then we remembered there was another road. We couldn't do a U-turn since the road was too narrow and there was a bunch of snow on the sides. We had to back down the road to get back to where it split. It was about 1 mile, and the whole time we were expecting someone to run at us. Once we got to the split in the road, we started down the other way. About 3 miles down, the road turned back into an actual road, but the night was not over. About a minute later, a white pickup truck came flying down the road going the opposite way. Once it passed us, it hit its brakes and turned around. The truck started chasing us. It caught back up and started tailgating us. It turned into a full car chase at this point. After a few minutes, we started approaching houses and the truck slowed down. I watched his headlights disappear over a hill, and I never saw him again. We drove back to campus, thinking about everything that had just happened. We later realized that the white pickup truck was probably driving to block the other road. And if we stayed in that cemetery for even a minute longer, we would have been trapped from both ways. I don't know what those people planned on doing, but I'm glad I never had to find out.